let me first call our former director, Professor Bala Subramanian, to say a few words.
I know Mr. Pandian from 2002, and probably I am the one who knows him for a long time out of this audience. But first thing first, this library initially, from the time of the 1962, when this institute started, from that time, this library has been in the main building. And in fact, the main building was the only building at those times. All the other buildings came later. And the library was housed at the place where the present administration is sitting. And that library I found, when I joined in 1984, and I found that something very strange about that library, that it had actually books, important books in all subjects, even though there were no faculty members working along those areas. Therefore, this has been one of the well-endowed libraries from the start. And it's in 1989, the foundation was laid for this library building, and the building came in 1990. And Mr. Pandian joined in 2002. After some stint at IIM Indore, and then the UG Center in Ahmedabad. And after he joined here, after a couple of years, he got actually more lucrative offers from elsewhere, and still decided not to move for the reason, as he was telling me, he liked the culture of this place. And the one major thing which he did was to make this library user-friendly. I mean, that's one of the great things. And somebody, I think probably pointing out that probably the students should have brought in, and they would have said how helpful, how user-friendly the library was for all their researchers and so on and so forth. There are many people who have directly told me. And I shall just quote a couple of instances. Because this library is well endowed, and some of the college libraries nearby are not, therefore all the students used to come here even earlier and use this library for the research work. And when Pandian saw that, he thought that the whole procedure has to be streamlined, and he did a fantastic job. But in streamlining, he had one problem. The library had 2 entries and exit at that time. And he was afraid if the 2 entries and 2 exits, if something is lost, then he is the person responsible. I mean, finally he has to give an account, these many books have been mutilated, these many books have been lost, etc., etc. He was little unhappy with that. And then he suggested that probably there should be only one exit, so that it can be manned. But the library was in the 2 floors in that building, and the staircase were outside. Therefore, there is no way you can really make a one entry, because the staircase is outside. Therefore, from first floor to the ground floor, who wants to go, one has to come out of the library and to take the stairs, etc. And then he came up with a beautiful idea of having a staircase inside, but not occupying much space. It was his idea of that spiral staircase, which is still useful, which is therefore not occupying much space, and still there is a staircase from the ground floor to the first floor, and that helped a lot. The second thing is these mobile racks on rails, which is something which I should point out. You see, as the days progress, you always have a problem of the storage space. This is something which every library would face. Then what to do? Then get some more building to keep that old things. For example, I know in TIFR, of course, they have an extra building where the old copies are kept. Or probably discontinue some of the journals. Or dispose of the old issues. I mean, none of them is a very satisfactory answer. And then he decided that he would have mobile racks, compact one, on the rails, so that it can actually store more books. See, those were the times when the finance was not much a serious problem. But even though the finance was not a serious problem, but when you ask for the money, they would expect a proper justification. And for these rails and things like that, when you look at the initial investment, that looks a little high. And therefore, Pandian has to come up with a proper answer to the accountants there to see that the rails are important. And he came up with saying that any one bound volume of any journal, say mathematical reviews, cost around 1 lakh. And what he is asking is a 300 rupees extra for the proper preservation of them. And he won the day, and that's all. Then he got the money, and he was able to have everything. The other thing is RFID. I mean, he was the one who brought it in, and initially with the proprietary software, and then afterwards open software. And many of you in the administrative position would have seen that preparing annual report, one of the major headaches, collecting the information, compiling them proper, and so on and so forth. And then with the help of Professor Dathe, he came with an in-house software for preparing annual report, which made the life very easy. And the annual report thing, because when I go to the other organizations, they always talk about how difficult it is to make this annual report and so on and so forth. And that is something which he did very well. The other thing is the digital archives. That's one thing which I should say. See, Madras is a place which has a difficult relationship with the rains. As you saw the last month in the rains. And as people say, the relationship with the Madras and the rains are 11 months, it is a scarcity, and 1 month it scares the city. That's the relationship. And this digital archives helps you a lot, because now even some of the books were really drenched and they had to be done something, etc. We have the archives there. That is something which we are able to do. The other thing is this photo gallery. In the 50th year of the IMSC, that is in 2012, we requested an agency called Srishti and to have a tea book for the tea table, tea books which you can read. And that time, therefore, that organization collected a lot of photos. And then he got hold of the photos. But one problem, as he was telling me when he collected the photos, is some of them are very old, around 50, 60 years old. And then you see 3 people, and you definitely know that these 3 people are somehow intimately related to this institute, but you don't know who they are. And therefore now he has to collect, see the people who would be able to recognize them, and collect all the information and have a nice photograph. And I was telling that this user-friendliness is again one more point which I want to always think. And somehow he had always some good set of co-workers. The Venkatesan, who was there, I mean, I don't know how many of you have seen him. I mean, he will know everything practically in the library, which book is there, what is that you want, and who would help you. And then Usha Devi. I'll tell you, Professor S.K. Joshi, Professor S.K. Joshi, probably most of you would not know, was the governing council chairman of this institute from 1998 to more or less 2019. And whenever he used to come for the council meeting, he would always make it a point to spend 1 hour in the library, go to the library, and we would say that what are the books that he needs, what are the journals he needs, and this he would say only after having our breakfast and leaving the guest house. And then before he comes to the library, then he would be able to see whatever he needed. And most of the time he would be called to give lectures at various places. And therefore he will need various printouts and so on and so forth. And they will be all ready. I mean, the Pandian or Usha, they would come and say, give him, okay, these are the things which you want. And now recently, maybe a couple of months back, I went to the library, I needed something. And I met these administrative trainees. And I asked them for the help. And they were equally knowledgeable and were able to help me in a couple of minutes. I mean, they knew where the books were, what is it I want, and how to collect it, and so on and so forth. I was impressed by it. And then I asked Pandian, I mean, how come you are always lucky to have very efficient co-workers? And they told, the one thing is, of course, when we take the trainees, we, of course, do a careful interview. And even afterwards, every alternative Tuesdays, we meet for some time, discuss their issues, and what is it they have to do, which would make them better. And therefore, it is no surprise that 4 of the people who were trained here are occupying some nice place in the Anna Centenary University. That helps a lot. This all puts only a problem for the director Ravindran, but he has to find out a equally good substitute, and which is going to be a Herculean task. Somebody who is as efficient as Pandian, who would be able to take it to greater heights and things like that. And in fact, a little more is involved. Because the person has to be not only as good as Pandian, but a little more because the times have changed. That is what we were discussing in the morning. We were discussing, namely the digital one. You can't stop it. As Bhavanandi in his Nannul around 800 years back told, Parayana Kadidalo, Pudiyana Pudalo, Vadala Kala Vadakinane. Of course, I knew that most of you may not know Tamil, and therefore, in fact, I was thinking of the English version only, the world order just yielding place to new, but already he has used it in his lecture, and therefore I thought I will go for the Tamil version. And therefore, this library now should be getting transformed for this new development. And therefore, whoever the librarian who we are choosing should be even capable and adaptive for that. And that is not going to be an easy task. I think I am digressing, okay? And anyway, therefore, coming back to Mr. Pandian, therefore I was telling him during lunchtime about a happy retired life. And he said, no, sir, I am now looking for my second innings. And therefore, let me conclude wishing him a second innings which is as successful as it was, his first inning was.
I'd like to call upon Professor Arvind, former director of IMSC, to say a few words now.
Balu has covered actually most of the achievements of Dr. Pandian, but let me try and touch upon certain aspects which probably were not covered. I'm also an old-timer in the institute. I joined in 1993, not as long back as Balu. The library building was already in place, and the ground floor and the first floor were occupied by the library, and the second floor was actually faculty offices. I think mostly faculty offices were there on the second floor, and also in the front building, the old building as we call it, the original institute building, the place where the administrative staff is sitting right now, also used to be cubicles for faculty offices. And in those days, of course, the internet was already there, but I think it was mainly email. And I remember using file transfer protocol for transferring large files because you couldn't attach it with emails. But beyond that, internet was not really so much in the academic horizon as far as my recollection goes now. And in the old library building, which has now gotten expanded into a new wing and an old wing. In the second floor where my office was, it used to get very hot in the summers. So it was a natural escape. I also had a soft corner for the library to go down to the library and enjoy the air-conditioned comfort and sit there to do our work. Many of us used to do that in the summers. It was only in the late 1990s, as I remember, that Google search started really becoming more and more important. Internet browsing and internet search became more and more important for academic work. And in 2002, as Balu explained, was the time when the new building was built. The Ramanujan Auditorium also wasn't there at that time. In 2001 it came, I think. 2002 we all moved to the new building, which is now 21 years old. And that's where we had air-conditioned offices, and internet was really on an upswing, with academics, material becoming more and more easily available on the internet. And 2002 was the time when Dr. Pandian joined the institute. As soon as he joined, there was a quantum leap in the quality of library services. And I remember that ever since he joined, there was a rapid stride towards modernization of various aspects, making it more and more user-friendly, keeping it open in the evening hours, using RFID and things like that. Books also got RFID tags later. As time went on, where were we? 2002, and rapidly the internet was becoming more and more popular for academic work. The archive was there, repositories were there, but always the library was there to help within 24 hours for any search that any of the faculty members wanted. We just had to send in a request with the details, and within 24 hours we'll get a soft copy of whatever we wanted. It's not just us. As it was a regional center, the visitors used to stream in mainly during the summer months, but also during other months. College teachers would regularly come, and they would get assistance from the library staff to photocopy articles. And so it was always a service-centered library, as a library should be. So it was fulfilling its role perfectly. And that brings us now to the modern times, where physical library, it's getting to be questionable whether we need physical library at all, because almost pretty much everything is available online now. But then we should also ask the question whether workspace and office is really required and meaningful, with online work, especially after COVID, becoming more and more feasible, and people are realizing that it is it's possible to work remotely and you don't need office space. So this is a very complicated topic to debate. I mean, for people of my generation, we have grown up with fond memories of libraries as a haloed place where you can go and study and where you have a quiet space to think, sit down and think. I remember this old short story, American author short story where I think it is Washington Irving or I don't remember who now, where there is this person who goes to the library and the books, the authors of the books come out as apparitions or ghosts. They step forth. I don't remember the author now. Maybe it was Washington Irving or who wrote spooky stories from those times. But so they would come out, they would step out. People like Herman Melville and others would step out and speak to this person who's in the library. And so libraries have always been a haloed place, a repository of knowledge. But with the kind of changes that are happening in modern times, especially with ChatGPT and other invasive AI-related technologies, we seem to be on a threshold of unforeseeable changes in the coming years. So it's hard to say that what is going to happen to spaces like the library in the future. But anyway, coming back to Dr. Pandian, ever since he joined, I have seen him work as a completely dedicated and a professional librarian, making our library as good as any within the constraints that we have. And I remember when he had a serious accident some years ago. He was severely injured, and it was surprising to see him come back to work even with facial injuries not fully healed. He was back to work. And it's quite amazing, the kind of dedication that he shows all the time, So I wish him, I was happy to learn that he's planning a new innings. His services are very much required. I'm sure whichever library he goes to, he's going to raise it to as high a standard as he brought ours. And I wish him all the best in the future years and happy creative and productive life in future.
Thanks, Arvind. May I ask our director, Professor Ravindran, to now say a few words?
Before I say anything about Dr. Pandian, I must thank Sitabra, Amri, and Madhu Pandi for coming up with this wonderful idea of having a meeting to honor him actually on the day he retires from our institute. It's a very wonderful idea, very unique I would say in IMSC. Usually it is done for academicians here, but we are now doing it for our person who actually played an important role for academics of this institute, academicians of the institute. In fact, when Professor Sitabra called me on the day that that he wanted to organize such a meeting, I was really excited because I was reading an article in Times of India about having a physical libraries. Okay, there were some workshops that was conducted in Chennai by some school teachers, with some children actually, that reading books in library, that not using your mobile phones and laptops. Okay, that was a wonderful idea. It's like the time has changed so much that we'll have to really go back, rewind and discuss about going to library, reading books and things like that. It's an irony, of course, but that was a news in Times of India, and Professor Sitabra called me and said, we are going to organize this. I was really excited about this event actually. I said, of course we should do it actually. It's not only honoring him, also actually reminding ourselves about the importance of library, physical library. Okay, so I'm really happy that this is done to honor him. Okay, of course library is very close to me because I did entire PhD in this institute, sitting in library, which actually came in front of me actually, from the foundation to this level actually. So I did my PhD here, sitting in library, of course working with my supervisor who is sitting here. This library is very close to me, Hence, anybody who worked in this library is very close to me. As Professor Balasubramanian mentioned, many of those staff who worked were my friends actually at some point when I was a student. And I had many friends because I was in library, because many students used to sit. Because initially library was the only place which had air conditioned in some places actually. That was one of the attractions, of course. But that was not the only reason, because the library was was new that time, and so everything was new there actually. Otherwise, the other part of the building was quite old, and we had to sit with a lot of co-friends. So I had a great time using this library. Hence, I have very strong bond with anybody who works in the library, and with Dr. Pandian. I knew Dr. Pandian from 2013 when I joined this institute as a faculty. I mean, after I left, after getting my PhD, I left, and then I came back again here and joined as a faculty. And from that day, I have, been to, library for various reasons, and he has been extremely helpful as a user. I benefited a lot from you. Also, I had many suggestions in different formats, and he was always been cooperative. Like Professor Balasubramanian said, actually, he never said, why do you need this kind of things, actually. So he's always kind of, forthcoming, actually, to do things. And I had an idea of actually having a Ramanujam hall, and he had worked very hard to actually set it up in the institute, and a hall for Ramanujan. And I think, I wanted to have it before I retires. Unfortunately, due to various reasons, we could not make it. And I can actually assure that it will happen, which he started actually during his time here. And we will have it in IMSC. This is small, my center where all works of Ramanujan will be kept. And he had prepared many things for that, and it will be done. And I had actually interacted with him on many occasions, actually furnishing and things like that. He's one who actually takes the lead. And today the library is, I would say, is the most beautiful part of the institute. In fact, if I get visitors to this institute, the first place that I take him or her is the library, actually. And because that is something I would like to always showcase about our institute, because it contains lots and lots of wonderful books, from the time that I was not even born and to the date that, even my children would actually enjoy. In fact, my daughter comes to, she's very small, so she comes here to read storybooks. Even storybooks we have actually for users. So it's a library which contains everything, and I think a lot of credit goes to him actually making this library a beautiful place for work, actually. So I don't want to take away too much of time. And he had worked very hard for this library. And when sometimes, I go there and I find not too many people around, I really, feel like having a meeting with students and tell, actually, spend time in library, just don't spend in your office alone, because there's plenty of things to read. You don't have to only concentrate on, the books, recent books on studies, because there are books that, I had to tell my students to go and look at it, which are actually about 60, 70 years old. And they are very, very precious, actually. You cannot get it in anywhere, actually. I also want to add one more thing about our, I said library, it means actually Dr. Pandian, because he had contributed a lot to this library. Without his effort, it would not be like this. The thing is actually that our, system has, works in such a way that, anybody from outside can actually approach any of us and borrow books, actually. So I meet a lot of my old friends when I visit places. The first thing that they say is about our library, actually. That library, you can visit, okay? Nobody will stop you, okay? You can borrow books through any of our friends, okay? So it is actually, IMSC is not just known for the science done here, it is also known for the kind of facility that through library it has provided to the Chennai and around Chennai actually. So I'm thankful to the librarian for actually making this library, sort of accessible to, lots and lots of people who benefited, and if you really look at actually, they're as old as I am actually, the kind of beneficiaries if you see. So, and recently there was a visitor who was a faculty in our institute, and while he was talking, it was a physics talk. This was Professor Haridas. Okay, he said actually, so I want to thank this institute, and particularly to Dr. Paul Pandian. We were just wondering why he was suddenly thanking. He said, this entire work that I could do, he was talking about a book that he was writing, and it was about to be finished. Okay, he retired about maybe 10 years before or something like that. For the last 10 years, he has been writing this book, sitting at home or visiting some institutions. Okay, and he said actually I could not have written this book without Dr. Pandian's help, because I live in a house where there are very few books, so I need to refer many books. So I just call him and ask, send me a copy of it. So Paul Pandian, with a lot of enthusiasm, he immediately xeroxes and sends it actually. So that kind of help actually it's really, really important for people who have no access to libraries like our library. Okay, and he has played an important role actually. To all of us, including those who are retired, okay. On behalf of those people, I thank him today for his wonderful efforts and job that he had done. So we will really miss you. Okay, I can't believe that you are retiring today, but I hope you will keep coming and sort of helping your juniors here actually, and I can see a wonderful team you have created, and this is one of the best part of our institute actually. Thank you for doing this.
Okay, so let me now call, we had asked Dr. Sundar of the Roja Muthiah Research Library, which is essentially in our neighboring road, to come and say a few words about Dr. Pandian. Unfortunately, he's unwell and he could not come himself, but he has sent his representative, Sri Subbu, from Roja Muthiah Research Library to say a few words.
Good evening. Mr. Sundar, he is not well, and he has sent its note to read here. On behalf of him, I am going to read the note. There are very few institutions in India where librarians are celebrated. The Institute of Mathematical Sciences is one of them. I am very happy that the Institute is aptly recognizing the contributions of Dr. Paul Pandian. Dr. Pandian has been working very quietly here for quite a long time. A very helpful person, not just for having served his institute, but also to fellow librarians and users. Whenever we wanted an article, we would approach him and he would help us. That is the spirit of true librarianship. He knew he was retiring and he wanted to set things in order. He recently approached us to organize the photographic collection of the IMSC. Anyone else would have thought it unnecessarily, especially when they are going to retire. This is the difference I am pointing out. The proactiveness of a leader, identifying talents and engaging them to accomplish something. Not all neighbors will be essentially partners. We have been natural partners. Recently, he helped us in setting up the D-Space in our library. While setting it up, we noticed his curiosity to learn new technologies and his commitment to help a neighbor institute. I thank Dr. Pandian for his timely help. In fact, our partnership started when the Indus scholar, late Airavada Mahadevan, set up the Indus Research Center in Aramaral. Professor Siddhabra Sinha, Professor Ranojay Hadigari, and Dr. Ashraf participated in several endeavors that Mahadevan initiated. We had a chance to work together, and parallelly, it was now with Dr. Paul Pandian. As a head of institution and vice chairman of local library authority, I am very much impressed by the librarianship and contributions of Dr. Pandian. I wish him good health and a good journey ahead. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I request Dr. Nagendra Jadhav, librarian of IIT, to speak a few words about Dr. Pandian.
Good evening, dignitaries sitting on auditorium. Dr. Pandian, actually, if we talk about him, it may be 1 hour is also very less. I know Dr. Pandian almost from more than 25 years. When I was in IIT Bombay, he worked in various organizations like Infonet, IIM Indore, Informatics, and IIT Anand. He really means, you see, when he was from that, when he's a DRTC graduate, technically he was very sound actually. Unix and Linux, actually, people was only knows about that word only, but he was really practically working on that. I know he was a trendsetter for all the library professionals because anything new technology, new software, he was the only person to do try and error, and actually he was just guiding the people actually. So one example, DA library Koha, he has actually trendsetter for all Koha. And I met him actually before 25 years, maybe during Caliber or Malibnet somewhere, I did not know that time. But after coming to IIT Madras, when I joined 2010, so after that, really, within 2-3 months, we just meeting actually any requirement there, so that we fulfill each other because IMSC maybe subscribe something, IIT have something, but no any library in the world, they can subscribe all resources. So reciprocal basis, we used to share resources. And he was helping, means really mathematics means what you want, you will get in IMSC. That was the really means we know that. And he really means, I can say he's true librarians, okay? Because means any librarian or maybe any professionals, you want some skills actually. Like you should be technically, he was very sound technically. You want managerial skill because he worked in IIM Indore, so he learned many managerial skills during that time. He was in Infonet, so technologically, library networking, all these means that time it was initial stage. Infonet taken initiatives to all autonomous universities entire India. So he was that time really working hard. And all these things means he achieved lot things. Only I just feel that means all DA means professionals or means scientists should have 62 years. I was not knowing really, to be frank, actually, till last week. Okay, when Marotam called me, he is retiring. Then I told actually there is no 62. So really, I was surprised. Otherwise, I would have planned for any fellowship volume for him. Really, I do not know that. Okay, so I thought actually all scientists and all everybody getting 62, but he told me that it is not 62. So really 2 years we miss you. Okay, that I can say that. And during my this IIT Madras, he also helped us. I also come to IMSC, okay, many things professionals like other library work. One thing actually just I want to tell you, when he was in Infonet that time, he almost 200 university libraries actually he was like instrumental for that all automations. So all that time it was started initially, and then he was really that time worked very hard. Even in consortia, that was initial stage actually. All these now we say ESS, Indest and all that time, it was initially started because and one thing is that actually there is one union catalog of all university or college libraries, infinite maintaining that. Okay, so that one of his actually contribution. He just worked today. If you see that what books are available in other libraries, you can go to indicate. So that one of the contribution I can say is best contribution. Okay. And I do not know, Devika Madalia means Satyanarayana supposed to come, and they came today. They came. See, these are actually affection, actually, where he worked in Satyanarayana informatics. He was learned all trends, publishers' trends, e-resources. That time is 90s earlier. There was people not talking about, do not know about e-resources, but that time he had actually exposure in informatics, means how can handle databases, how can e-resources. And might be, I don't know, he also did PhD on e-resources management that time. 2000 means before you can say almost 20-25 years actually that time he did on that actually, and he is a very good author actually. His 2-3 books I read, his RFID, internet, okay, all these things. That was really practical experience. What he just actually he just what he work on that he written books actually, that was very useful to all library professionals. He is very good authors. And that's all this that time in 25 before there was Series ISS, Unisys. All these software actually by default, he is from DRTC, but after that there is no training, but he was himself was trying that when I came in 2010 to meet him actually. And I see his desktop actually, it was like there was a terminal, okay. I never seen any librarian actually, he can open terminal and he's working on that because Unix was there, okay. So IIT Bombay was actually they working on Unix, so I know Unix and I was also fan of Linux and all this flavor. But when I came, I see actually his terminal Unix, so I really happy that time because some of the librarians really they you can say love on open source. He was, I don't think many things he did actually in open source. He saved a lot of money. And really this today's gathering actually showed that how he contributed to the IMSC. That I can say, no, as per my knowledge, maybe organization something, they just call all people and they do felicitation. But you called actually Director Infinite and Satyanarayana because that was he initially worked there and they also realized his contribution, what he was contributed there. So they also happily came and they just actually grace his occasion that. So all these things just I want to just tell these few words and thank you very much Paul Pandian, and I wish you are healthy and retired superannuation life. Okay, so thank you very much. Yeah.
I request Dr. Venkatakesavan to say a few words.
Good evening, friends. First of all, I would like to congratulate my good friend of 3 decades. In fact, I can take credit for that. I know Paul Pandian from year, and I'm just emotional, 1993 onwards, 30 years. I met him in InflipNet for the first time when I was working for Atira in Ahmedabad. There was a training program organized by InflipNet, capacity building program for all librarians. He was one of the resource persons. And I have seen him because he's coming from South and I was there. I could not speak to many people in Tamil and things like that, so he became friend. What I noticed from him from that day till date, there are 3 Ds which is important in his life. First D is, I would say, he is a very disciplined person. I can go back to 30 years back. When that workshop was to be organized, he was the first person always in the venue. He made sure that everybody came there, and he was the last person to leave that place. 15 days we had together. Second D stands for dedication. He is always a dedicated guy. I could see the directors of this institute talking about him, that what kind of work that he has done. Dedication is also important. And determination. Again, I can say that example that he met with an accident. Somebody was saying that with some bandage and things like that, he came back to work. This is the Paul Pandian I've seen about 30 years back. I'm glad that he continues the same thing even today. For me, as a library profession, it gives immense joy that my own professional colleague getting that kind of credit, and you did a great job. I'm proud of you, Paul Pandian. Thank you.
I invite anyone from within the audience if they would like to come and speak something about Dr. Pandian.
It's a pleasure to talk about my colleague, Dr. Paul Pandian, whom I can say I know from his stay in this institute, day -1. And the -1 was when we first met, when you came for the interview. And I have worked with him many years because I was in the library committee along with Pandian. And all the developments that you heard that he did here, it's quite extraordinary. And in fact, the whole RFID thing came because we wanted to keep the library open so that anybody can, if they take out the book, it doesn't need the intervention of a person, which limits the access to the library to have a person all the time. So this 24-hour thing happened because of the technological innovations which Pandian brought about. I know a large number of students who used to come to the library to use them. Some of them were coming for internship here and discussing with me and other things. It has been extraordinarily useful to all the students from various colleges, not just professors and academic professionals, but students, especially students. It has been extremely useful. And one of the interactions that we had with Pandian, and that is the essence of the library, is sometime in the middle of 2006 or 2007, when this digital library concept was becoming more and more popular, we had a debate whether we should expand the library space. We had a building,
and it was getting crammed, and this compact storage thing came. But then you cannot put books in the compact storage. You can put journals, bound journals. So the books needed space. So at that time, we had a debate, both in faculty meeting and in our library committee, whether we should go for digital, e-books, rather than having physical books and physical journals. And in fact, we took the view in the library committee. I remember this discussion. Probably Krishna was also there, I'm not sure. That, library is a place where you browse. It's not like a Google search where you take a keyword and put it. Then you are only searching for what you already know a little bit. Maybe just a keyword, but still it's something that you know. On the other hand, in the 90s and earlier times, library was a place where we would go in between our whatever research we were doing. You look at the journals. When you look at the journals, you look at the contents. I may not know anything about what came in that journal, in that issue, but I may find something extremely interesting by just looking at it. The idea of browsing is one of the most important things about the library. I'm saying this as an outsider, as a user of the library, not as a professional. So therefore, what is the point in saying go digital? On the other hand, our library shelves were coming closer and closer, in which two people could not easily pass by. That is when we decided that we will go and propose this new expansion of the library. But then we had a problem. We had space constraint in this institute. We have very little space, as you have seen. And we did not want to cram the green space which we already had. You see that banyan tree there. So if you had to expand the library, you had to occupy more space. Then we came up with the idea, okay, we'll put it on stilts, leave the open space below, and that is the colonnade that you see there. So all this thought went into it, and the fundamental idea was to keep the library as a browsing place, not just as somewhere you go and search for what you already know a little bit about. And I think all this was possible because, Paul Pandian not only was receptive to ideas, he was giving the ideas. And we, of course, had a library committee, and I remember the discussions in the library committee. It was always extremely useful, and because of that, together under Pandian's leadership, we have been able to maintain this library as one of the best libraries anywhere I have seen. I have been associated with another institution where I used to go regularly, where I have seen how the library has become something else completely. You don't see books, you just go and sit at the terminals. And somehow it doesn't give the feel of the library. Here you still have the feel of that library. You can go, you can browse. All the physical journals are there, not just electronic volumes. And I think it's quite amazing. And not only that, after the new building, the concept was initiated by us in the library committee, the whole concept of this space expansion, where we kept the old building and then pushed it in front without occupying a physical space below. I think all that is there, and now I see when I go, and I retired many years ago, and whenever I go there, I feel so happy, and all that happiness is due to Paul Pandian's efforts. Thank you very much, and wish you all the best in your second innings.
Libraries have always played an important role in my life, and I've also been very fortunate throughout my life to have access to some amazing libraries. So when I was a kid in Bangalore, I used the British Library, the British Council Library as it was known back then, and then the Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata Library in my college days, and the famous Regenstein Library of the University of Chicago, and the smaller Eckert Maths Library, and the amazing Chicago Public Library. And now in Chennai, I have access to the Anna Centenary Library, and the most important, the IMSC Library. So among all these libraries, the IMSC Library is something really special. It is the most user-friendly library that I have ever visited. All visitors to this library, whoever they may be, are treated with utmost courtesy and respect. And the staff, uniformly, they have very high morale and they are very dedicated to their jobs. The operation is very efficient and extremely streamlined. Also, this library has been a pioneer in embracing new technology in library information systems. And a good deal of this credit goes to our chief librarian for the last 20 years, Dr. Paul Pandian. He has always put users first and foremost in every policy decision about the library. He has been a strong advocate for the use of technology in library management and has been personally involved in the development and deployment of such technology. He has been an inspiring mentor to his library staff and trainees, and he has provided them with every opportunity to advance their careers. He has kept a watchful eye on our library throughout these years. He has always anticipated any problems that may arise well before they arise, and he has taken proactive steps to address them. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Pandian for his service to this institute, and I wish him well for all his future endeavors. I would also like to extend these wishes to his family, his wife, and his sons, who have been an integral part of our life throughout my tenure at the Institute of Mathematical Sciences. Thank you.
So we are the, we are the people who are going to miss him on day in and day out. We have learned so much from Dr. Pandian. Since last 8 years I am here, and I have learned daily something from him, and most importantly the time management. That's what something which is very unique with him. Like if some request comes or if some query comes, and if we don't respond within 15 or 20 minutes, he keep on asking us why this has not been done. And he used to follow up till we complete those tasks. So we used to anticipate, sometimes some queries is there and we have to respond immediately. And we used to plan many times, when there is a request from office and the director, sometimes for some data. Some time back, we used to prepare and send it. And later on, he used to say that, don't prepare at the last moment when they ask. You anticipate, every year we are going to give some kind of similar data to the office. And you plan it and prepare the data, keep it ready. And I think whenever we get such requests, I think the response will be the first from the library. I think that's how he has trained us, and I think it will go a long way in managing such things. And also some couple of things, when we planned moving away from a proprietary library automation software to open source software, and we faced a lot of challenges. And one particular challenge is the RFID part. Koha, we have an open source library automation software which is readily available, and we can migrate it, and we tried and we did it. But the RFID thing, which is proprietary, and we had invested a lot of money on that, and we need to depend upon those middleware. So we did not know how to go about move. So once we read one article in one journal, a person from VECC has developed a middleware with existing the same proprietary Lipsys hardware to convert into Koha. So he saw that article and he started calling him immediately. And And that person name is Mr. Munirul Purkait of VECC. It's also a DAE-funded institution. And he immediately responded positively, and even we requested him to come to IMSC, and he obliged, and he came. And he was explaining us like they have done for their library in a very small level, because their library is very small. And he did it in Windows environment with Visual Basic. And our requirement is like our environment is completely Linux. And he requested him like whether is it possible to convert to a Linux environment or a platform independent environment. And he obliged, and he did it, I think, within a month of time. And he helped us a lot. And we tested that software, and that was the starting point for many libraries with similar setup, similar proprietary software with similar hardware. Everybody were looking for such thing, and such open source software, open source middleware. And once we operationalized that, and many libraries like NCL in Pune, NIT Rourkela, and I think a couple of more institutions, they readily wanted to deploy the similar thing, and whatever we tested and whatever tools we used, they started using it readily. So that's the vision he had, like one development made lakhs of rupees to be saved, because the RFID equipments are so costly, and it's difficult to discard and buy some new equipments. Yeah, that way his vision and leadership helped so many other libraries also. And also in DAE setup, at least 2 to 3 libraries got benefited of his knowledge, and they migrated this automation tool with the help of us. And also there are a lot of things we learned from him, and yeah, it's time. I don't want to take much time of you also. Sir, wish you all the best, and we will keep disturbing you many years to go. Thank you, sir.
I am Rajeshwari from the Chennai Mathematical Institute. CMI and IMSC library have always been working together, and CMI has always sought help from the IMSC library. And we have had association from Mr. Venkatesan, Ms. Usha, Mr. Paul Pandian, and of course Marudu now. And I would like to say that whenever we sought help from IMSC library, be it asking for any resource or even a book on ILL, it used to come very quickly, rather quickly. In the next 15 minutes, as he said, the PDF will be in my email box, and with the next shuttle, the book will reach us. So I'm immensely thankful to the IMSC library, and especially Dr. Paul Pandian, who would have created this atmosphere in the library. So, and of course, I have relied heavily on you for technical help as well. So I'm thankful for that also. I wish you all the best, and as Bardu said, we'll be disturbing you even more. Thank you.
Final step of this felicitation ceremony, let me ask Professor Ravindran to formally felicitate Dr. Pandian on stage. May I call upon Dr. Pandian to go on stage?
So I would like to call Professor Balasubramaniam, Professor Arvind, and Professor Murthy, and all of you actually to join. Also Krishna Madali. If you can join, maybe it's Avina. I think, all of you worked with him at some point. It will also give. Please come.
Last but not the least, I'd like to ask Dr. Pandian to say a few words about his experience in IMSC.
Good evening to all of you who present here, and all those who could not be present here, but they sent their wishes. Thank you so much. And this is one of those moments which makes one emotional and speechless. But I have to speak, at least to thank those responsible for my professional career. But first, I would like to thank the organizers of this event, Professor Sitabra Sinha, Professor Amritanshu Prasad, and Mr. Dr. Pandian for having thought of this kind of event to coincide with my superannuation day. And this is the character of this institute, which actually made my stay longer than what I planned initially for. Actually, I came here from IIM Indore to spend some quality time with my mother, who was ailing suffering from she was suffering from tuberculosis, and I want to spend some time with her, and I want to kind of come closer to my hometown, and this is the place where I could kind of immediately get it. So I came here and then spent one and a half years I spent. And then I was to go back to North, and I did have an offer to one of the IIMs and also some other national institution kind of a thing. But this 1.5 year stay here and the conducive atmosphere made me think twice, and made my stay longer to the extent that I'm retiring today. Some of all the speakers are, they have really complimented my work, and then they said I have helped transforming this library. Actually, the way I look at it is that I think I simply went with the time, with the flow, with the technological advancements and the developments that are taking place from time to time. In the way the information was collected and organized and disseminated. I just went with the flow and moved with the time. That is how I think I see it. Not big achievement kind of a thing, and with the support of the authorities, particularly the director, the library committee, and my own colleagues in the library, we could do this transformation. So I would like to formally thank the directors of this institute, Professor Balasubramanian, Professor Arvind, and the current director, Professor Ravindran, and all the library committee chairmen, from Professor R. Sridhar, Professor Jagannathan, Professor M.N. Murthy, and Professor Amritanshu Prasad, and the current chairman, Professor Sitabra Sinha, and all the library committee members whom I have interacted very closely in the library matters, and both academic and the non-academic members I'd like to thank, and especially the administration team, particularly the accounts and administration, who have actually provided all the support to make this library transformation as that you see today. And I'd also like to thank the speakers from outside who could make it to this event, and also my friends, my friends like Dr. Venkatakeshavan, Dr. Jadhav, and particularly Professor Subbiah Arnasalam, who had been, I think you will be known to the library science professional as a, scientometric man, the India's Eugene Garfield. Okay, and he has been advocating open science both at national and international levels. And he's a good friend of many library professionals, and many got benefited from him, and I am one of them. Thank you, sir. And I'd like to thank all the academic members and all the non-academic members and the IT team and everyone of this institute, and thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you. Take care.